So since we did our last podcast, which is literally a fortnight ago exactly, have you guys been playing anything aside from Donkey Kong?
Yeah.
What have you been playing, Jeff?
I have been, and it's going to sound very, I don't know, obvious, but Ghosts and Goblins, I've actually been hitting it on this arcade machine I'm currently using as a table with the cloth over the top. But got it playing in the background, Ghosts and Goblins.
Yep.
I've been really trying to get under. So I've been watching a few gameplay videos from some people that are amazing at the game,
Yep.
and what they do. And I've learnt that Mekamuri, which is the Japanese version, is much easier. But using their tactics and the tactics that I saw on the US version, which is much harder, which is what we all play on. I haven't nailed it yet, but I'm trying to get through those two demons before the end of the first loop, the master, the Satan at the end of the first loop, and then I'll have another loop to do. It's just the rest of the game is just like it's almost patentable. It's pretty easy. It's just those last two. The other thing that I'm doing there is I put an offer for a original Mekamuri PCB that I hope to put in this cocktail that I talked about last week about the sort of grail items. And hopefully that'll come through because I can put US ROMs in it and have it as a G&G because it's exactly the same board, Mekamuri to G&G. As far as I'm aware, they both got the big Capcom logo on the custom chips and stuff. But I've been playing, obviously Donkey Kong, I've been playing that. But as far as arcades or consoles have gone, not really. Have nothing super new. I'm a bit of a stalwart. Once I get on something, I just want to complete it. So
yeah, I've been. So I've had a game that I've been wanting to replay for a very long time, but it's again like I might not have said on the podcast, but a lot of my retro games and collection is still in my storage unit. But there's been like, you have those games that you start thinking about, but they're always in the back of your mind. It's like, I want to replay that. So I've only just actually finished it this afternoon. But for the last sort of week and a half, I've been playing through the game called Manhunt on PlayStation 2.
Oh, yeah.
Which I'm not sure if you guys have heard of or aware of. If not, I can give you a brief synopsis of it.
I do know it, but please, for our listeners.
Okay, so essentially it starts out as you're like a convicted felon that's been sent to death row to be executed, and when you're going to be strapped down into like the chair to get the lethal injection, the guards that are around you get taken out, and then you sort of wake up after being sort of knocked out from whatever like drug they've given you. You sort of wake up and you've got this like monitor up in the corner, and then there's this guy like talking to you, and he's like, put in your earpiece and you can hear me. And then he's like, this is your chance to sort of, I guess, have a second roll of the dice. So everyone thinks you're dead, but for you to have freedom, you need to do what I say. So essentially, he's essentially wanting to make a snuff film out of you, and as long as you get to a certain point, then you'll get to live a free life, but you got to satisfy him the whole time.
Unlikely he'll ever let you go.
Are you sure this is a game and not like what happened to you last weekend?
well. So
you did go off the charts, mate. We didn't see you for like.
Yeah, you disappeared for like 3
5
days.
days.
You get on a plane and go to like, I don't know, some exotic location and murder some people and come back, or
finish your Manhunt story and then we'll talk about why you disappeared.
We won't. But anyway.
Now we really need to dig the dirt on that.
Yeah. No, it's okay. So then, like, for example, you start off and it sort of, goes to the introduction, whatever. Then it's like you're sort of going through like a broken down sort of city in a way. But like the first thing you think you pick up is like a plastic bag, and you got to sneak up. It's sort of like a stealth game for the most part. So if you hide in the shadows, they can't see you, but you got like a radar. But like the first person you sneak up on, if they can't see you, you hold down like you're I guess, attack button. Then it'll start with white, then it'll go to yellow, then it'll go to red. And the higher it goes up, the more brutal the execution is, which gives you more what they call fetish points.
I like the sound of this game at all.
No, it's very controversial, and it was banned not too long after it was brought out. It was made by Rockstar on the PS2. I remember my mate got a copy just as we were finding out that it was going to get pulled from the shelves, which it definitely did.
I've got a game like that too.
And yeah, so you sort of work your way through that, and you end up, having to the corrupt police and XYZ. My missus wanted me to keep playing after last night because she was playing a game, and I was like, oh, I'm getting close to the end, but it's one of the games that actually gets me legitimately scared. And she was just over there like doing her own thing. I was like, oh, I've got to get through this level. And when you get to sort of the end, like the same guy's been directing you has turned his back on you. He's got all his minions out trying to kill you, but he also had this like pet project, which is like
can't trust you.
Spoiler alert! Spoiler alert!
Actual dog, and it was like this. They call him Pigsy. He's like this naked dude that's like half pig, half man, and he has like a chainsaw, and he's broken loose inside this guy who, that you're working under, I guess at the start, like his big compound, like he's a big movie director. And at the end, you're down this dingy basement and you got nothing. And this pig man type guy called Pigsy, like, who usually the bad guys, you can see him on the radar, but you can't see it on this last level. And you sort of start walking around. Then the first thing, he just comes out all guns blaring with a chainsaw. And I literally like screamed, and I was just like put on pause. I'm like, I'm not playing anymore. And it scared her more than it scared me.
You squealed like a little
shit. Mate, it was bad. But yeah, got through it today. But that's what I've been playing. Aside from that, another game I've started to revisit.
Sounds like a horrible game.
Well, it depends on what you like, which I shouldn't say like that. Killing people with plastic bags and executing them. But the other game I've been playing a bit and started to try to play through again even though I didn't finish it the first time, is a game called Cuphead, which if you haven't played it or heard of it, definitely worth looking at. Great animation, great side-scrolling, like probably the best side-scrolling game we've seen brought out, in my opinion, in the last 10, 15 years. But I've talked too much, so we'll move on to Matt.
But I haven't. Yeah, we'll move on. I haven't played it, but I've watched streams of people playing it. It looks absolutely fantastic.
Mm. The animation in it is
really classic.
Drew me. Yeah. How about yourself, young Matthew?
I have not played a lot. You can probably tell because when that bounty thing was going on, I played for like 3 days or something, and only for a couple of hours. But I've played some of God of War on the PS5. I know it's a PS4. PS5 game. It's not bad.
My son's he's probably finished it now, but he's been playing that too.
Yeah, it's for a PS4 game, it's very much a looker. I don't know if it looks better on the PS5 or whatever, but you can see where the money has been spent. It is a good game. It's not blowing my mind. Like I wouldn't say, oh, it's game of the year or anything like that. It's a very good game. Like. You can't go wrong by playing it. Sometimes I feel like it might be a little bit hand-holdy. So, you got to solve a lot of puzzles. They're pretty easy puzzles. But as you're trying to solve them, the characters that are hanging out with you will be like, why don't you try and do this? And you go, I was just about... No, shut up. And then you'll do it, and they'll go...
You mute them?
No. And then you'll do it, and they'll go, great job. And I'll be like, don't patronize me.
Pandering again. We're getting pandered.
Yeah, I mean, maybe that's why the guy's angry all the time, right? Maybe it's because the dickheads he hangs out with all the time are giving him the shits.
That's why I hate games of today. I hate games of today, man.
No, it's not that.
The hand-holding is so hand-holding.
I don't have a problem with a game giving you a hint if you've been stuck at it. Like, I really like if you're stuck at a certain section for a certain period of time. Rather than getting frustrated, I want the game to give me a hint and go, hey, idiot, maybe you should look over here. Right? Yeah, and that takes a lot of effort. But here it feels like they just want every single person to get from start, from A to Z.
Yeah. And
And
not quit on it.
yeah, and I get that because you want as many people as you can to play the game, buy the next one, and whatnot. But it kind of felt like Spider-Man for the PS4 felt similar in that it was a great game and I enjoyed it a lot. But I don't often get all the achievements in a game. I think I got all the achievements in that game just by playing the game because it was just that easier pathway through.
That's one of the things like I always sort of, when I talk to my son about games and stuff like that, it's kind of the same thing like back in my day. Like you had to, there wasn't, you can go online and look at a guide, you had to work it out yourself, but also that same sort of save state-ish style that it works on. I think, like, for example, like when Fallout 3 came out, that was one of my favorite games for a long time. But then, when they brought out the new Fallout game, like 5 years ago, or whatever, it seemed very much the same. And like, if you ever watched like someone streaming it, as soon as there was something coming up where there's something could go wrong, they just go quick save.
Yeah,
and then it went to shit, and they just reload it, and then like to me that takes away the whole flow of the game. But that's what people today are used to.
I like a quick save, but I don't like save scrubbing or whatever you want to call it, where you just do it over and over. That
back in the days of Leisure Suit Larry on the Amiga in Sahara, I used that to get through Leisure Suit Larry because when you went to the casino, you could either lose all your money or win all your money, and so save state was essential. Just how you played that
Put
game.
It all black. Classic.
It's like playing real-time strategy games, right? If you're saving and reloading constantly, where's the reward and risk? What is it worth? But anyways, that game's great. I bought another game called the Callisto Protocol. I haven't played it yet. I hear that if you bought it on the PC, it works really badly. But I got it on the Xbox. It's like Dead Space, if you've ever seen or played Dead Space. Really loved Dead Space. It reminded me a lot of Resident Evil 4. If you've played that game's fantastic.
Yeah.
But I plan to get around to that eventually.
All right. So sort of, I guess, might be a good time to sort of go back to some of the things we were talking about in the first podcast. So I'm happy to start if you want, but I'd say like my favorite console and how did I play it and how did I sort of come about it. So I've got a bit of a split sort of thing here. So favorite console, I'd have to say, growing up, as we sort of mentioned in the first podcast, I'd say is definitely probably the Sega Mega Drive. Again, I didn't sort of have an alternate option around from that. But when it comes to things that I have the most nostalgia for, I'd still say that would be the main one that I would go for, just based on just those memories that that we all love nostalgia. Hence why we're here talking right now. But just like those memories of like playing through games with games with your cousins and doing the co-op games and just sort of going through that would 100% be the Sega Mega Drive. But as an adult, when I started getting into collecting, then the NES became my favorite console, even though I didn't really have any real connection or anyone that really had an NES growing up. Like I had my best mate across the road, but again, very limited experience. But when I got back into collecting, that was the one thing that I really got into. And that was if I was collecting my games, that would be my main focus, to really expand my collection of how many games I can get. And it's just, I'd fell in love with the graphics, the control, like everything, the controller, the way it plays, the simplicity, the bad games, the good games. But as for like favorite games on, like, for example, Mega Drive, I'd have to say, like, surprise, like Aladdin. I have memories of renting that from the Medina fish and chip shop and actually finishing that I believe I was like 7 years old when I finished that game. And when you go back and replay them, like a lot of these, I'm like, Jesus, like, how did I manage to do that when I was that young? Especially like, having kids and stuff, you see them come up and like, you sort of think, well, with the hand-eye coordination that comes with it, that I was playing games that are this challenging that adults play now that can't get through like even the first level. Like how else I managed to do that as a young child, which because you didn't have a choice. It was like, this is what you got to play, and you're going to play it because mum's paid $5 to have it overnight. And the other game, so yeah, Aladdin, Ghouls and Ghosts, Earthworm Jim would be my Sega Mega Drive games. They've all got a different sort of place in my heart. Aladdin being, the fish and chip shop, Ghouls and Ghosts, my cousin and I think I owned a copy, and we would just take in turns of lives, and we'd work our way through until we finished it. Another game I think on that console that doesn't get enough love would have to be Earthworm Jim. Like, either love it or hate it, but there's something about that art style and the gameplay that I'll still go back and play through to this day. As for like NES, I'd have to say the standout favorite game out of all the games I've played would still have to be Mega Man 2. I think that's a flawless platformer in my opinion. But that's it for me.
Jeffrey?
Okay, so console gaming. I harp on about I'm an arcade kid and I didn't really play consoles, but I had a PS1, I had a PS2. I didn't have an NES or a Sega Mega Drive because it was all the computers. But I guess when I think back at the console games that I played more than other ones, a couple stand out. The first one was a game called The Getaway, and I don't know where the disc is anymore. I can't find it anywhere. But I had a game called The Getaway, and what I loved about that was on PS2. What I loved about that game is Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels had come out in like 1988. Do you remember that movie, Lock, Stock? It's like, you ain't,
And classic.
Freaking classic.
Freaking classic, just like ours.
It's basically London gangster scene, and The Getaway was kind of like Vice City. You could hijack cars and rip people out of cars, and you had quests or missions to go and raid this particular warehouse. And I think there's a huge shoot up at a cop shop, if I can remember rightly. But it was like the movie Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels, but you played it. And so I think the difference was Lock, Stock was about 1998 and this is 2002. But absolutely love that game. It's embedded in my memory, probably is one of the only PS2 games I really played and loved to play. I did play God of War and stuff, but that one was more of a good game. Other ones,
Great game.
I actually played a heap, but Prince of Persia on PS2 was amazing graphically wise. So was Jak and Daxter. I was an animator, and those things really caught my eye as amazing quality titles.
I remember Jak and Daxter being like the first PS3 game that I was just like, I can't stop playing this till I finished it.
Oh, even on PS2, it's just amazing animation. Naughty Dog are just amazing with their sort of set. I mean, then they went on to do, Uncharted and Last of Us. So, amazing development studio, really, groundbreaking kind of stuff. The other game, so Getaway on PS2, the other game, and we're talking about later, we're not talking about back in the day because I didn't really play them. I was Amiga and stuff. Was on PS3 was Red Dead Redemption, the first one. So this game, I would play it on PS3, and my wife would sit there and watch me play and give me advice and hints. It was like, for her, it was like watching an interactive movie.
Yeah, 100%.
Which was probably the closest gaming experience I've had with my wife ever, because we do separate things, and I'm a gamer and she's not. She used to play like Diablo. Like, she used to play some PS2 games that were more kind of like that fantasy sort of stuff. But playing that, the other thing that she played a lot was all the Mass Effect games. She's just collected all Mass Effects. She loved those games because of the storylines.
Going back to like Red Dead, I think the main reason that would be is the story. Like, it's got such a great story line to it. Like, and that's what I think. Rockstar don't get as much praise for as maybe they do deserve. Like, I know, Grand Theft Auto 5's got pretty long in the tooth, but For example, like the Manhunt game I was playing, that's Rockstar, like, and the story behind it, as much as it sounds like a messed up game, which it is, the story is enough that, like, for example, my partner was wanting to see what's happening and see what happens going forward. And I think, like, when it comes to story writing, I think Rockstar really are underrated. And Red Dead Redemption 3, Red Dead Redemption on PS3, sorry, is what I meant to say. Again, great story writing, and, like, I don't care how manly you are, when it gets spoiler, but the game's been out for 13 years.
We're spoiling all the old games today.
Like, when you get shot down at home, if you didn't get to the point where you wanted to almost cry as a man, like, there's something wrong with you, in my opinion.
Yeah, I don't know if I was crying, but
I didn't say crying, but, like, that was an emotional thing. And then you get the Red Dead Redemption by shooting that coward in the fucking creek. Fucking
yeah,
a dog.
screw him, dog. But yeah, that was Sorry, they're my two kind of PS1. So they're PlayStation games for some reason, not really Xbox. But yeah, those are two games.
I played Red Dead on Xbox.
Did you?
Yeah,
I didn't play on Xbox.
Cringy. How about yourself, Matthew?
Well, before I say, I just want to give some feedback there, Dak. I agree that Mega Man 2 is probably one of the best games ever made. That game is just so tightly produced. The music is so good. The platforming is so good. It is, like, even the weapons and the bosses and that, it's just remarkable what they were able to do. And the fact that apparently they were told not to make it, and they made it behind their boss's back, is fantastic.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
Mega Man 1 doesn't really... I've got all 6 on NES, but, like, Mega Man 2, like, I just always go back to it. Like, none of the other ones... none of the other ones even felt the same. Like, they try to,
he's not bad.
Same with all the franchises. They try to add too much to try and make it better, but they end up making it a detriment to the game, in my opinion.
My dog was named after Mega Man's dog, Rush. At when I had it. And back to what Jeff was saying there. Yeah, Red Dead Redemption, probably Rockstar's best storytelling.
100%.
But they make great games, obviously, and they sell gangbusters. You look at Grand Theft Auto, but the stories in Grand Theft Auto, you can see that they're good. Don't get me wrong, and the production values are
unrealistic.
Great. But the homages to the gangster movies and all that they're trying to crib on, it's not as solid as their Western take. Their Western was just...
And
people don't make Westerns nowadays.
And you can't get the original Red Dead, at least to my last time looking for it, as like a re-download or anything like that for PS4 or PS5, because I kept on saying to my son, because he loves Red Dead 2. He loves it. Like, that's the only game I've ever seen him continuously replay over and over again. And he's always like, if he sees a movie, he's like, I've seen it, Dad, I don't want to see it again. It's like, mate, I used to do that all the time. Yep. Whereas with Red Dead 2, he keeps playing and playing. And I'm like, I really wanted him to be able to play the original Red Dead, because I know he'd love it.
Yep.
But it's not as easily accessible.
Can I just say
those consoles?
Can I say it's exceedingly accessible in 4K on the Xbox? If you want to download it, it's about $5, and if you've got one of the more recent Xboxes, it's in 4K. So
the thing that in development wise, the thing about Red Dead that was groundbreaking too was the streaming environments. This wasn't really done. I can't remember a game before this, and maybe it was, I don't know. But the way that Matt, tell me, the way that they were streaming in these massive environments where you could go down to Mexico and come back up
Oblivion,
to stuff.
Skyrim.
I don't know. I didn't play that. Skyrim was way after
Just
Red
Cause
Dead.
2.
Skyrim was
Just Cause 2
Skyrim
then.
Before Red Dead.
Oblivion was definitely before Red Dead.
This is going to end up. I think next week it's going to be like the Red Dead Redemption podcast.
Yeah. Okay, sorry. But yeah, I just want to say I hate fanboyism of consoles. If Nintendo, Sega, whatever, PlayStation, Xbox, whatever, play everything and enjoy everything, right? my favorite game, my favorite console, it's really hard to pick. Like, I loved the NES as a kid, and as an adult, the 360 was just a mind-blowing time for me. But the Super Nintendo is where it's at. And if I go back and I look at it, Street Fighter 2, when they did that on the Super Nintendo, oh, so good. Super Mario World, Donkey Kong Country, so many good RPGs on there. Final Fantasies, Chrono Trigger, Lufia 2. It's an unappreciated gem. I reckon everyone should play that game if they like RPGs. The superior version of Aladdin. He's out of here, ladies and gents. Dak has left the building. I did that just to spite him. I don't know whether or not it's the best version or not. I've played both, and they both seem shit to me. Both versions. But, Mass Effect on the 360, by the way, probably my favorite game of all time. Number 2 in particular is my favorite. Number 1 is fantastic.
Extremely scary as well, isn't it? If I'm not mistaken, the Mass Effect games, is that?
No, not scary at all. So
what's the outer space ones that are scary? What am I
Dead
thinking?
Space? Dead Space 1, 2, and 3. Mass Effect is more of like the first one is kind of like James Bond in space. Choose your own adventure. The second one is kind of like a Seven Samurai, Dirty Dozen kind of game where you go out and you recruit the 7 most badass people in the galaxy to help you go and save the universe. And then the third one is it's the third one. So yeah, that's probably my favorite games because I put them together as a series. But the console, definitely the Super Nintendo. Definitely liked the Mega Drive at the time, but I just want to say another controversial thing, Dak. 99% of Mega Drive games sounds like someone's farting through a microphone. I can't handle it. Sonic sounds great. Streets of Rage is amazing. Everything else.
I didn't bring these things up, but I'll loop back this a bit later. Because it's very valid points that you just made. So, how about what would you say, the best sort of shitty game that you've played? So when I look at a shitty
Aladdin.
game,
just kidding.
Oh, bro, you're killing me.
I love you, Dak.
Do you?
I do. Go ahead. No, really, keep going.
So, there's another category which comes into that, which I think is the best shitty game. So when I think of a shitty game, you can have something that's shitty, which is something that's unplayable, and you get your mates to play it, just out of sheer joy of seeing, making them experience something that's crap. So for me, I'm going to sort of lean towards going with something that it is crap, but it's fun to watch your mates play, but it's not just because the controllers are no good and it's like Action 52 or whatever, which is just horrible to play and it's pretty short-lived enjoyment. One of my favorite games, I'd have to say that I personally enjoy, but also personally watching other people play, would have to be Where's Wally on NES. And if you see that on a CRT, I think that's even accentuates how ridiculously hard it is to even make out anything. Because they're trying to make those Where's Wally, the panels, but have Where's Wally on there, and doesn't matter how big your CRT is, bro. If you're going to be fucking struggling to find the cunt, So that's one that I think I'll have to put on, but that also works not as good, but it's still enjoyable putting on a big screen LCD. Another game that sort of sucks and I still hate it, but there's something about it as an adult I had to go back and finish it because I owned it as a child. It was a game called Green Dog on Mega Drive. Beach surfer dude. I don't even recommend anyone take the time to look it up. It's not worth it, but it's a crappy game that I had to go out of my way to finish as an adult based on principle because I never finished it as a child, but do not recommend to anyone. Well, how about yourself, Jeffrey? What sort of crappy games do you get enjoyment out of or enjoy people playing apart from Donkey Kong?
Look, I'm trying to think. There's something that particularly comes to mind is a game called Puyan. No, I'm kidding. Matt loves Puyan. There's a game in one of the MGL tournaments that I had to play, which actually stopped me playing in the tournament because it was so horrible. And if Matt wants to go ahead, I'm going to try and find the name of that game. And put a
It
video
wasn't
up for it.
Bagman, was it? Because Bagman is
No.
disgusting.
No.
Yeah, I'll give it a go. There's a game called Deadly Premonition, and it was for the PS3 and Xbox 360. And I actually bought I imported a US 360 when it came out because I'd seen videos of it online, and I was like, I need to experience this shittiness. Like, this shittiness is right up my alley. Like, it's so bad that it's good. It's like The Room of video games.
Yeah.
And it's a game that obviously it started as a PS2 game, and it just, I don't know, they sat in a room for years working on this PS2 game, and the rest of the universe went on, right? And then they released it on a modern console, and it plays poorly. It looks bad. Like, if you get into a car, the car is like a tank. It's not a tank, but it acts like a tank.
So it's not the Chinese democracy by Guns N' Roses.
No. But this game is fantastic, right? Despite everything that is shit about it, it is fantastic. Like, the guy talks to himself at all times to an invisible person in his head, right? Like a second personality. So he'll be driving his car and he'll be going, Zach, do you remember when we watched Superman 2? I really love Superman 2. I think Richard Donner is a great film. Which are your favorite Richard Donner films? And stuff like that. And you'll be like, dude, someone just got murdered 3 seconds ago. And then you'll be driving the car, and then the car will just spin out for a bit for no reason whatsoever. Every character in it is a fucking lunatic. It's like Twin Peaks. If I could find, and the enemies, none of it makes any sense, right? But it is this beautiful mess. It is on PC nowadays. The game map, like if you zoom the map out, the map is like a dog. I don't understand.
Question: Is it something you can get on your computer and stream at it by any chance?
Yeah, absolutely. I would love to stream it for you, Dak.
Okay.
The first scene.
Let's set a date.
The first scene, the dude is driving a car. He's smoking a cigarette while he's driving. He's working on his laptop at the same time, and he's on the phone. And then he has an accident. And you're like, well, of course you had an accident, you idiot. You were doing these multiple things.
Not just one thing that's wrong. You're doing 3 things that you shouldn't be doing.
Yeah. So
I can get on the darts. No, let's set the darts out there, but that's more long-term health risk.
But the game's credit, it went to the trouble. It's such a poorly produced game, right? But it went to so much trouble that things like there's real-time beard growth in the game. Why? I don't know, but it's there.
That's impressive, though. Were they the first people to break into that sort of genre?
No, what, the shitty genre?
Growing a beard on,
I don't think so. I think
game goes on.
I just think the guy who did it had a dream. And maybe he couldn't achieve that dream, but he tried his best. And what came out, like The Room and like Tommy Wiseau, a masterpiece was born. And that game is the masterpiece. The other game that is broken, it runs at about 3 frames a second that I really love, is called Drakengard 3. It's a PS3 game. It runs like garbage. It's this girl who can't die. She's got a flower growing out of her eye for some reason. Every time she tries and kills herself, she comes back to life. She has a team of people that follow her around that are all the most reprehensible human beings. Like, there's one that's an old man who just wants to bang her at all times. There's one that likes to kill kids. there's all kinds of weird, horrible people.
Son has his moments, but settle down.
Yeah,
this is 2 games you guys have talked about tonight. 2 games you guys have talked about. First, there's plastic bag killing game.
That's Tasmania.
And now there's old.
That's just Woolies.
Yeah. If you don't want to get mugged down at your supermarket, Like that's how you go in Tasmania. What are you talking
That is
about?
Milwaukee Central, bruv.
I love this. We got one person on one side.
Headphones
Jeff's
are
like, I don't want to hear about these games. You got someone down on the bottom of my screen saying, "Kate, can we stream this game? This is really awesome." So I don't know.
Games need to be like fun, happy places or challenges. Like
No. I
this
disagree
weird-
completely.
No,
Games are
I get what you're
experiences
saying.
like
They need
movies.
to be everything. Yeah, they need to be everything. But I don't want to know about like murder games and what sounds like freaking snuff games, and I just
Yeah,
don't
that's
want to
what it
know
is,
about
yeah.
it.
All
I
right,
don't
we
want to know
need to
about
get Jeff off this podcast. We need to. No, I'm just kidding.
Well,
It's a snuff
we could always
cast.
before we transition to the next subject, Jeff, did you find the game that you were
Oh,
wanting to?
shit is. Yes, I did. I found it. It
What
was
is
it was an arcade game, funny enough.
Yep.
It's called Venture. It was in the MGL, LX1V, whatever version. But this game, I'll read a quote from one of the submissions I put for this game. It took
Oh, I know this
2006.
game. I know this
It's
game.
called.
Oh.
This is what I put. I'll say this every new score. This game is a steaming pile of dog shit. Venture is this game where you have to try and go into certain rooms and dodge these bad guys while shooting arrows. The control system for it is the most frustrating pile of shit you have ever seen in your life. So this game should have 8-way controls, right? So you can just move around. No. Yep. It's got kind of 8-way, but it's like completely broken. It's the worst game ever. And thank you to Evan from the MGL who picks these games for picking that one game to make everybody's life hell.
But do you enjoy
Venture
watching
arcade
other
game.
people play it?
You know what? I enjoyed the challenge of trying to get further and beat other people. I don't
It
think
was
I
just a
won
chance.
it by any chance, but it's it was just horrible.